Hollow Knight Silksong is one of the few times in my life where a piece of art has been able to perfectly live up to my own expectations. I spent 7 long years fantasizing about what this game could be, and how Team Cherry will make a game better than Hollow Knight. And now, after all this time, they succeeded.
But it doesn't seem like a lot of people feel the same way. Now, don't get me wrong, there's of course a ton of praise for this game in all corners of the internet. It's just that, on top of this praise, there's a clear frustration a lot of people are having. A frustration with the game's difficulty. It's hard to ignore. It seems like a lot of the discourse surrounding this game has been centered on the subject. Recently as in writing the script, I don't think this is that recent anymore, famed critic and Bioshock Infinite enjoyer Yahtzee made a video discussing this exact subject. The thesis of this video is that Silksong did things he found absolutely amazing, but was so difficult and, in his opinion, bullshit and unfair that he quit the game. What I found really interesting about this was not necessarily the video itself, but the comment section, where a lot of people seem to agree with this perspective. This one particularly stuck out to me, describing the idea that everyone has a breaking point where the game becomes unfair. The entire discourse surrounding this has given me a lot to think about. One, I am better at video games than I give myself credit for. A lot of things that people described as frustrating too hard I didn't really have that much of an issue with. And secondly, what is the point in making a game hard? Difficult video games have been a part of the medium's identity since basically the start of it. As a lot of people know already, arcade games were intentionally difficult, so you had to spend more quarters if you had any chance of beating it. When home consoles became the next big thing, a lot of games were still made with the same design philosophy. But instead of taking quarters from the player, it was the remaining bits of your sanity. So at the start, hard games existed to take more money from the player. However, at some point, this changed. Why were games then so difficult, after it stopped being a way to make more money? To answer this, we have to look at one of the biggest evolutions in this field, difficulty settings. Difficulty settings are something that is now present in almost any game that comes out today. To choose the overall difficulty of what you want from a game is something that most people expect to do when you open a game for the first time. If you are someone who considers themselves a gamer, fucking kill me, then you probably find yourself picking one of the hard difficulty settings on your first playthrough. And there's a good reason why you do this. To put it simply, if a game is well designed, then it will feel better to play the harder it is. If the game is able to push the player to perform at a higher skill level, and the game is able to respond to this without it ever feeling unfair or unfun, it feels amazing. Earlier this year, I played Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 for the first time. For both games, I played on the highest possible difficulty, Proud Mode for Kingdom Hearts 1 and Critical Mode for Kingdom Hearts 2. I came away from this experience thinking that Kingdom Hearts 1 was an incredibly flawed and frustrating game, and that Kingdom Hearts 2 is easily one of the best games I have ever played. The difference between the two is that as Kingdom Hearts 1 got harder, the cracks in its design showed, and as Kingdom Hearts 2 got more difficult, it only made the game's strength shine brighter. Now what if I had played both games on the normal difficulty? I think what would happen is that I would enjoy Kingdom Hearts 1 more and Kingdom Hearts 2 less. When you even out the difficulty like this, it has the effect of hiding both the flaws and strengths present in both games. So, if the reason games are difficult is that they make the games more fun and interesting to play, does that mean you should always pick the hardest possible difficulty setting? Well, yes, kind of, if you're up for it. I mean, it's not like I can stop you. The obvious problem with this line of reasoning that a lot of people watching this have pointed out already is that not everyone can play games on the highest skill. Not everyone is good at games, and not everyone wants to be good at games. There's plenty of reasons for why someone isn't good at games, but at the end of the day, it's a category that a lot of people fit in. And game devs, for the most part, have to cater to this audience. And that's why we have difficulty settings, right? It's so that people aren't locked out of experiencing the game. It's for accessibility. Let's look at me, for example. I'm not very good at first-person shooters, so when I tried playing Doom Eternal on Ultraviolence, I was nervous. I'd already played Doom 2016 on UV and didn't finish it, and with the knowledge that Eternal was apparently much harder, safe to say I was a bit anxious. I came away from this experience feeling like I was pushed to the absolute edges of what I can accomplish in a game, and I had a fucking blast doing it. It was one of the most incredible experiences I've ever had with the game, and has turned Doom Eternal into one of my all-time favorites. Imagine now if Doom Eternal released without difficulty settings, and the default difficulty was equivalent to Nightmare. For some people, that would be just fine. For me, however, I probably wouldn't have finished the game. It would very likely be that I would give up and move on to something else, not realizing that I'm missing out. So, let's tie all this back to Silksong. The answer to the game's difficulty problem is that they should just add difficulty settings, so that anyone who is struggling with the game can just change to a lower difficulty instead of complaining about it on Reddit. Meaning, this whole problem is solved. Right? Well, yes. On the surface, I would say this is the right call. But I think it ignores something kind of important. That difficulty can be an artistic choice. That it can be essential to the experience of the game.
Silksong takes place in the Kingdom of Heartloom, a dangerous hostile place that is actively trying to kill Hornet, who has to do everything in her power to survive. It only makes sense for the game to be difficult, as it reflects the world the game takes place in.
Could you imagine how weird it would feel for this game to be easy? How much it would seem to go against how the world is presented to you? Ooh, Farland is so dangerous, you gotta watch out, but you kill everything in like 2 hits. So the game is hard, because it only makes sense for it to be hard. That's almost a near perfect example of difficulty as an artistic choice, which means Team Cherry did the right thing in not adding easy mode. Right? Obviously, this line of thought runs into the same problems as earlier, that there is an inherent exclusionary element to making the game difficult. But let me present this issue in a different way. I watch a lot of movies and TV shows in languages that aren't English. Sadly, I'm a stupid American who doesn't know a word in our language, so of course I use subtitles. Unless I want to watch an English dub, which can have spotty quality.
You and me will be the best team.
This is really the only realistic way for me to watch these series. But in theory, people who already know the language have an advantage in understanding and being able to engage in the media. By watching a translated version, I am inherently experiencing the art through a diversion from the original artist's intent. So anytime I want to watch my Japanese animes, should I learn Japanese? Well, in theory, yes, but that's unreasonable to ask someone to do. Kind of like how it's unreasonable for some people to play at the hardest difficulty. So is playing a video game at its highest skill the same as learning a different language? No, of course not. But I think that in both cases they stem from the same thought process, of wanting to experience the art in its intended form. At the end of the day, difficulty is a conversation between the game devs and the players, and difficulty settings are a way to make the conversation easier for the players to understand. So you have to choose, what kind of conversation are you wanting to have? And to end on the foreign language metaphor,
Go ahead and speak a little Chinese for him.
Team Cherry.